It's Sunday, it's the NBA. We are here to look at the 9 games, all of the news that we need to know, and of course, Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I'm going to undergo a corrective procedure on my injured flap. And I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs, where you can find qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. Go ahead and double bang. Go listen to the audio. Go watch the video. Give it those thumbs up. And remember, there is the trade deadline show, Thursday, February 8, 1 p.m. Eastern. Go ahead and pre-bang that. Let's get those pre-likes up to 1,500. Put it in your calendar as well. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. It's a busy day in the NBA with 9 games on a Sunday. We're going to go through the results of my leagues and industry pickup later on in the show here also. But let's get into the big news of the day. And that is, of course, that Joel Embiid is... I've written surgery. Hope I don't get murdered by the Sixers PR department, but I've said that Embiid is having surgery on his knee. Here is what happened. I'll go a bit of detail here because I think it's important. Woj tweets out, 76ers star Joel Embiid, the reigning MVP, in case you didn't know, will undergo a procedure this week to repair, keyword, repair a left meniscus injury, a team official tells ESPN. A recovery timeline is expected after the procedure, but expectation is he'll miss an extended period of time. Shams comes in with a copy and paste from the team press release and says, Joel Embiid will have a corrective procedure this week to address an injury to his lateral meniscus in his left knee, team says. Sources say Embiid's surgery, finally we got that word, will address a displaced flap of the meniscus and he will be extended for an extended period of time. Woj then comes back and says, the door isn't closed on an Embiid return this season, sources tell ESPN, but there will be a clearer idea of the timeline once the procedure is complete this week. So, again, we have a million different sort of things here. The fact that the Sixers keep saying injury is frustrating. It's a tear. Like we have said this the whole way. It is a tear. They keep saying injury. It's a tear. The other thing they're saying now is corrective procedure, which, of course, is surgery. That's all it is. He's having surgery on a meniscus tear. We thought there might be a non-surgical treatment, but it's not. This is surgery on his meniscus. The problem that here we still don't know. Now, someone tweeted this out to me, and I think it's a fair way of looking at it. What I understand is Woj saying repair. It's very key with meniscus as well. There's 2 ways of attacking it. Repair is the best long-term outcomes for the injury, but it is a long recovery. A meniscus removal / trim / meniscectomy, which is, you'll see it written all those ways, is they cut a little bit of the damaged part of meniscus out. You can get back fast from that, but it's bad long-term outcomes. Dwayne Wade had one of those, and it removes the cushioning off your knee. It's gone. Never comes back. Embiid has already had a meniscectomy on that left knee, so he's already missing a piece of meniscus down there too. So the fact that Woj is saying repair in the initial tweet, that is a 4 to 6 month injury. You don't come back faster than that usually. Jalen Ramsey had that in the NFL. He did it in July. Wouldn't he come back in October? Obviously that's on the short end of recovery. He also doesn't weigh 300 pounds. He's not 7'2". So if it is in fact a repair, the season is done for Embiid. It's finished. He's cooked. But someone said to me, what if they go in there? Because for his long-term health, having a repair is the better option because it preserves the integrity of what's left of his meniscus. But if they go in there and they can't repair it, which is a possibility, then their only solution is to trim the damaged part of meniscus. And that would mean that his recovery would be sooner. And he might be able to be back 6 weeks from a meniscus trim. That's possible. Again, smaller you are, the quicker your recovery. Probably 6 to 7 for Embiid is the best case scenario. And then we get to the comments from Woj about the door isn't closed on Embiid returning this season. Now, for us, fantasy, we think this season as regular season. For the regular NBA world, that is entirety of a season, playoffs, NBA finals. So when the option is Embiid's entire season is over, or, hey, we haven't closed the door on him returning this season, that to me suggests that there is no way in the world that he's playing this regular season. But I don't know that. So I would say that it is a greater than 99% chance that Embiid's regular season is over. We've got about 8 weeks left in the NBA regular season. We've got about 7 weeks or 6.5 weeks left in most fantasy seasons. And I just do not see how Embiid is playing in any of that time. He is having surgery, and what it appears to be is that it will be a 4 to 6 month period with a repair happening. But there's still so little clarity here. If they do go in and they do end up with a trim mastectomy, then 6 weeks maybe. But then what sort of 6 weeks leave you? The 15th of March with limited minutes, back-to-backs, like absolute best case scenario. And again, with Woj saying, the door isn't closed on a return, there's no way that means regular season comes back on the 15th of March. There's just no way that's going to be what he is intending there, I think. So the big question is going to be, do I drop Joel Embiid? Well, I can't really tell you that because, again, I don't know. But I would say that if we balance all the probabilities up, if you end up dropping Joel Embiid, I would think you wouldn't regret it. That's my guess. Based on all the information, all of the tweets, all of the way that the Sixers are obfuscating the information. So it's not like, hey, our season's cooked and we've just got no hope of doing anything because Embiid's done for the entirety of even the playoffs. Makes me think that he is done for that period of time. And again, his career will actually be really severely impacted if he has a trim because then he's going to have these knee problems. He'll barely be able to play 50 games a year, I'd guess, moving forward. Who knows? So again, if you do need a spot, Embiid might be a drop. In fact, it's almost guaranteed that will be a totally fine move. But who knows? We've had a lot of lying on injury reports this season. They're obviously hiding stuff on these injury press releases, obviously, with the deliberate use and avoidance of certain words. But, everything is pointing towards done, which is shocking news. So, what I'm going to say, Paul Reed's the ad, and you're going to tell me, no, he's trash, Josh, it's the worst. Someone told me that adding Paul Reed for one game ruined their season. I'll tell you that they didn't, and you're lying, but that's cool. And someone will tell me that he's the worst. Someone told me he's the bust of the year picking up Paul Reed. That's not how waiver wire ads work at all. At all. But anyway, Paul Reed's the ad. Fight me. And there you go. That's the Embiid surgery news. And I'm sure we'll get another unbelievably confusing and non-clarifying report in 2 days' time that might completely contradict everything I've said. But Woj deliberately said repair, which is a 4 to 6 month injury. That is what it is. And that is absolutely done regular season. Done. Clint Capella is out for 7 to 10 days, so we're fully on the Onyeka Okongwu train. So in the 36% of leagues that he's available in, what are you doing? Go and pick him up, please. Kyrie Irving's going to return on Monday. He's listed probable. And Benny Simmons is out on Monday. Don't be too worried about that. It is a back-to-back. It's expected he'd sit out one of those back-to-backs because he's coming back from a 3-month absence due to a back problem. So that is where we're at with the news. What a interesting, annoying, and confusing update. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. I'm not going to give you an annoying update here. I'm going to tell you that LinkedIn Jobs is the site that you should be going to as a small business owner when you're looking to hire people for your business. Hiring the right staff is absolutely key in having success in business because if you don't have the right people around you, well, it's just going to be hard to achieve that success as a small business owner. There are so many different things that you need to do. One of those is hiring, but hiring the right people to do some of the other things to take that pressure off is also key too. LinkedIn is not another job board. It is LinkedIn. So you get access to over 1 billion professionals across the world to get your ad in front of their face so they can see it. In fact, small business owners will tell you that they've got a qualified candidate in response to their ad in 86% of the time within 24 hours. So go to LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA. You can post your job for free there. That is LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA. You can post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's episode is also brought to you by BetterHelp. We all have things that annoy us. Sometimes they're huge, sometimes they're small, but we all like the opportunity to get something off our chest. Certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out with someone unbiased and neutral in your life. Now, you might be going and talking to a therapist about the frustration of the NBA's injury reporting, or you might be a Philadelphia 76ers fan. Go, why is this organization continuing to lie to us about these injuries? What are they doing? Why are they hiding this stuff? And that therapist will just be able to provide you a neutral view on it and be able to talk you through how do you deal with this? Is this actually important? How does it impact you? How do you process it? Or just let it out. That's exactly what we can do. Therapy can be different for everybody. You might have big, huge, life-changing issues. That is totally fine. You might have small things that seem petty, but to get them out actually improves your overall well-being. It's important to get off your chest every once in a while. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonNBA to get 10% off your first month. That is betterhelp, HELP.com/lockedonNBA. Okay, we can go straight into the games now because, I did the waiver wire ads and drops earlier on today in the waiver wire show. First game, your Orlando Magic against the Detroit Pistons. Good win there for the Magic. They win at 111-99 is the final score. Let's talk Franz Wagner. He was amazing. 38 in 36 minutes with 4 threes on 68% shooting. A little bit empty in the peripherals, but good scoring, while Banchero had 20 and 6 with 7 assists. Great from the line, bad from the field. Pretty good parlor game. Jalen Suggs only the 29 minutes, and I still have people telling me that they want to drop him. Like, okay, he had 9, 5, and 2 steals and a block on 50% shooting. He's not a droppable player. He's a guy that should be rostered everywhere. While I'm getting a little worried about Markelle Fultz. 2 games in a row, under 25 minutes. He played 23 here. He had 8, 4, and 2. And what is happening is they are reducing Fultz's minutes. They're pushing Suggs to point guard, and they're putting John Isaac in more. So to me, what that means for Fultz, absolutely not a must, but he's absolutely on the chopping block now. Get that garbage out of here! So if you are needing to make a move, heading into the trade deadline coming up, which I will also remind you, save your waiver wire ads. Save them. You don't need to use them for streaming. So if you've got Fultz and you go, well, I'm going to get rid of him, maybe just wait. Maybe just wait and see what happens with trades and injuries in the next few days. I'd be holding on to that one. So, Isaac, minutes up, 21 minutes, 5 and 6, steal block. Good defensive streamer, not adding him in 12s though. While Wendell Carter struggled a bit, 7 and 4 in his 28 minutes, and we got 20 minutes from Mo Wagner. I think Wendell is still a 12-team league guy, but probably more of a back-end player. Well, what is going on with Cole Anthony? 1 point, 11 minutes. I can't believe that they are phasing him out the way that they are. And they gave Gary Harris 24 minutes. Cole is like, he should go somewhere else. Watch that. I don't think he'll get traded. Just watch it, though. Just watch it. For the Pistons, is he arisen, the big fella? Asar Thompson, 27 minutes, 17 and 7, 1 steal, 3 blocks, 70%. They continue to start the fast that is Kevin Knox, but it doesn't really matter if Asar's getting 27 minutes. Now, obviously, it's benefiting because Isaiah Stewart is out. If you wanted to make a preemptive ad of Thompson, sure. My confidence level in Monty Williams is absolutely rock bottom. I don't think that he's necessarily going to play this amount every single game. I think that he will probably do that at least from mid-March, but I don't know if this is the harbinger of this being a regular thing. I hope it is, but I don't know. Jaden Ivey. Remember when he was not in the rotation, 11th man on the rotation, behind Marcus Sasser and Killian Hayes? He had 18 points in 35 minutes, a steal and a block. He's shooting really well. He is a fringe 12-team league player. If he gets 33 a night, though, he's a very clear 12-team guy. While Duran had 15 points and Cunningham had 18, 5, and 7. They are easing off Cade's minutes. He's playing like 4 fewer minutes than he was before his injury. Boyan didn't do anything, 11 points in 33, and Alec Burks had 10 points in 20 minutes. He is a streamer and not a must-roster player, but we got pretty sizable minutes from Gallinari and Muscala. 16 for Gallinari and 14 for Muscala. They didn't do anything. They didn't hit a single shot, and the threat of them being shooters is more important than the fact that they cannot shoot. But yeah, we're obviously not rostering those blokes anywhere at this point. Let us go on to the second game of the day. Another early one. It was the Phoenix Suns and your Washington Wizards. There was a change. Kyle Kuzma was out in Washington, and they replaced him in the starting lineup with Bilal Coulibaly. Not a surprise there. Basically, any time one of those guys goes out, Bilal will step in. It was a absolute destruction from the Suns, 140 to 112. In an absolute guaranteed, this proves it without 100%, without any doubt whatsoever, revenge games are real and they exist. Bradley Beal dropped 43, 2 and 6 with 2 steals and 4 threes on 76% shooting. He had been in a slump. We talked about him as a buy low guy, and all it took was him just focusing and getting revenge against his former team to get us there. Kevin Durant had 18, 4 and 3 with 2 steals and a block with 3 threes, and Devin Booker only played 26 minutes because this game was over early. Not a great game from Grayson Allen. I do think that he is a drop in a points league. I've got no problem with that. I would hold in a category league though. He had 6, 3 and 4, and Nurkic was amazing too. 18, 13 and 8 with 1 steal on 64% shooting. After a little bit of time when he was sort of fading away, Nurk is putting up good numbers. For the Wizards, if we're going to check in, let's check in on revenge games. We've got Landry Shamet, who had 13 points in 21 minutes. Cool. There was no Marvin Bagley. It was a blowout. So we got 23 Eugene Omoruyi minutes. He had 16 and 10 with 3 steals, which is really good. Don't care. Dan Gafford had 15 and 7 with 2 blocks. Avdia had 24 in 25 minutes. And old Jordan Poole, mate, what is happening? 4 points in 20 minutes for Pooley. He did have 7 assists, so that's something, but the shooting's terrible. This is, maybe he should go to betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA because there's something completely wrong with what's going on with this bloke. And Bilal, I know Tony Snell's been in the news a lot, but not for the stat lines. Bilal had 1 rebound in 25 minutes. That is it, nothing else. Bilal showed that he could get more usage in that one game without Poole, but then we had a game without their highest usage player, and he didn't do anything. So now I'm like, is he even a stash? The fact that I can go back and forth on, maybe not, means that he probably isn't, because there's no yes, this will definitely happen for Bilal and he'll be awesome. Kispert had 15 points. The 4 assists are a nice little surprise for Corey. I don't think we need to rely too heavily on him. And Tyus Jones was fine. But look, again, this is just a gigantic blowout game. Not as big as the next one, but a lot of weird stuff in terms of lineups. Speaking of weird stuff in terms of lineups, the Memphis Grizzlies and the Boston Celtics. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm Nostradamus, but I did tell you that you are going to have absolute frustration with the Grizzlies lineups every single game. They're going to rotate them through every single game, and it's going to be hard to peg down anything with this team. So, Luke Kennard returned to the starting lineup. John Conchar was out. G.G. Jackson moved into the starting lineup because Jaren Jackson was out. Okay? Anything else happen? Yeah, we actually had a couple of things. Trey Jemison moved into the starting lineup because Santi Aldama was out of nowhere. David Roddy Piper moved into the starting lineup because Vince Williams was out. Okay? What's going on? This is going to be a frustrating thing all season. And we can talk about it, and we will talk about it, but what the hell do I get out of this game? The Celtics stomped them 131-91. The Grizzlies started a lineup of Jacob Gilead, Luke Kennard, G.G. Jackson, David Roddy, and Trey Jemison. They had 8 players active, and the 3 guys who came off their bench all got signed within the last 2 weeks, I think. Scottie Pippen had 19, 6 and 4 in 27 minutes. Tosan Evwanwan played 29 minutes for 3 points and 12 rebounds on 14% shooting, Pistons legend. And Matthew Hurt had 7 points in 30 minutes on 27% shooting. Now, a lot of these guys like Evwanwan and Hurt and Jemison aren't even available to pick up on sites because why wouldn't you get that stuff sorted? Guys, this is not ESPN exclusive. Every one of you guys, well, everyone, 2 of you, Yahoo, ESPN, fix it. Because you know what? They're available on Sleeper. They should be. This stuff is so easy to do. Yahoo, ESPN. Because I'm telling you now, Tosan was on he was on the Pistons roster in preseason, in training camp. Matthew Hurt was around last season. Trey Jemison was on the Wizards roster. So they should just be in your database. As soon as you see a transaction come past, hey, who's this guy? Let's add him in. That's what I do. When I run a site that deals with the NBA players and projections, I add the players in. Shouldn't be hard for you to do it either. In terms of what I do with this for fantasy, I've got no idea. G.G. Jackson, 18 points on 33% shooting. This is what he does. 2 threes, 7 rebounds, 2 steals. You might think that's really great, but what happens when Jaren, and then Vince, and then Santi, and then Conchar, and then Tillman, and then Rose, and then Zaire, and then Bane, and then Smart all return? And do they return all together? Do they spread out? Do they sit every second game? There's no reliability within this stuff. You can't, this is why I've been saying, get rid of Jaren Jackson for a top 50 player. I thought Vince Williams might be a little bit immune to it. Apparently not. Kennard, I don't think we can trust. He had 11, 2 and 2. It's all going to be, I think, a situation here. Unless we just get guys ruled out for a long time where they have no choice but to run this 8-man, 9-man rotation. that you're not going to be able to rely upon anybody. Even if David Roddy was the only player left on this team, I probably wouldn't use him in a 12 team. Like, he had 14 and 8 on 38%. But yeah, like Jemison, 6 and 4, 2 blocks, got into early foul trouble, but he might play 0 minutes next game because there's a million players that come back. This is why I don't like holding Santi. It's why I'm, with Kennard in and out, I'm not sure I need to deal with it. Scottie Pippen looks great, but he literally DMP'd the game before. Like Conchar had been playing well, but now he's out again. Can't trust any of it. None of it. And it's really annoying. We're so early into the season for this to happen. And on the Boston side, what am I going to tell you about this? Like, Tatum had 34, 8, and 7. Cool. Porzingis, 28 and 8 with 2 blocks. Cool. Derek White had 15, 3, and 3. Drew Holiday, 7 points. Cool. Jaylen Brown was out in this one, so Al Horford started, had 11 and 5. I didn't even put the Celtics lineup change up because that's how little I care, not about the Celtics, but about what this means for any of their fantasy value. Because nothing changes. It's all the same. Just a game that happened, and then we just move on. At least you got good numbers out of most of their big-name players. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl to everyone who celebrates it. Courtesy of FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Super Bowl Sunday is a week away because it is Sunday today. So you got to get yourself ready. You got your party sorted, you got your food sorted, you got your guest list sorted, you got your drinks sorted. But do you have your bets sorted? Because you can place some super bets to get one last W before the end of the football season, or maybe 2 or maybe 3. Maybe you pick on the 49ers to win. Maybe you're picking Brock Purdy to be MVP or going a long shot and think that maybe they give it to a Debo, or they can give it to, imagine an out-of-the-box Fred Warner, sort of a Super Bowl MVP pick. Or they've got their player props. You can look at game totals. You can look at anytime touchdown scorers. It's all there over on FanDuel. And new customers, you can get up to you can get exactly $200 in bonus bets if you place a winning $5 bet with your first bet. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, so yeah, that Memphis thing, it's just going to be extraordinarily frustrating, I believe, all the way through here. Like, just ridiculously frustrating. Next game, Clippers, Heat. So we had a couple of lineup changes in this one. Ivica Zubac's back unbelievably early to start. Mason Plumlee goes to the bench. And then Tyler Hero, late scratch with a headache. And Josh Richardson started. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, a headache, Josh. These guys, they're so soft. This is what frustrates me about the way that NBA teams manage this. Tyler Hero has a history with migraines. So why wouldn't you say out with a migraine? Because out with a headache makes everybody say, why doesn't he just pop an Advil? What's he doing with a headache? He can't play. But if he's got a migraine, then yeah, he can't play. Unless it actually just was a headache. Why would you say that though? If you're going to lie at all in an injury report, lie about that. It doesn't mean anything. Just say it's a migraine. It actually helps protect your player as well. I don't know what they're doing. I do not know what they're doing, these teams, honestly. The stuff that happens is just unbelievable. The Clippers win 103-95 against the Heat, who had one. So that's 1 out of their last 9 they've won. For the Clippers, oh man, I heard some juicy Heat stuff over the weekend. I can't really tell you about it, but oh my God, I am excited. Oh, not excited, but it would be chaotic. Oh man, it's so good. The Clippers 103-95. Kawhi, this guy's just dominating. 25, 11, and 4, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 3 threes. Or Jimmy Harden had 21, 8, and 11, and he was great too. And Paul George played his fewer minutes than everybody else because he's injured and they keep playing him. He had 15, 7, and 4 with a steal and a block and shot only 23%. So just more of the same for this team. As for Zubats, 4 and 3 in 18 minutes. That is definitely not a good game. But he's returning from injury, and yes, you should go and grab him if he's available. What I will show you, though, is that with Zubats back, Russell Westbrook played 15 minutes. He had 5 points, he had 2 assists, he shot 22%. He wasn't very good because him and Zubats don't really coexist all that well together. Further referencing or reinforcing my urge to jack off Russell Westbrook.
Get that garbage out of here!
Now, maybe holding tomorrow. I don't think Zubats plays tomorrow, so that can boost Westbrook's minutes. They took Tice out of the rotation, and Plumlee played 26. He had 5 and 9. We're obviously not doing anything apart from streaming Plumlee, if we were streaming at all. for this upcoming period. And Amir Coffey continues to get big minutes. 23 minutes for Coffey, 5 points. This is not worrying anybody from a fantasy perspective. Probably more of a 16-team to 14-team league guy. But he's getting the minutes. And more minutes than Terrence Mann here. While Normie Powell had 16 and nothing else. He's one of the he's one of the best points-only stream guys out there. For the Heat, Bam Bam had 14 and 13 with 3 steals. Butler had 21, 3 and 3 with 2 steals. Subpar efficiency from both blokes, but otherwise not too bad. And Rozier is starting to get a little bit better. He's not going to be Hornets Rozier, but he played 38 minutes without Hero there. 17, 7 and 5, and Richardson had 14, 3 and 4 in his 33 minutes. Jaime Jaquez.
Get that garbage out of here.
26 minutes, 7, 4 and 4, 27% shooting. You know, one of the things that I was very skeptical about Jaquez is that he was shooting massively above his college numbers. What is happening here? Well, now he is in a horrible shooting slump, which, again, because he is not a good shooter, and he never has been a good shooter, and I just don't see any rationale. He's rostered in still over 56% of 12-team leagues. It's way too many. It's not happening. Move on. Maybe it happens later on, but there's absolutely no reason to roster him. I know you love his luscious hair. I know you love the mustache. It's all good. You don't roster him. Caleb Martin played 31 minutes, 11 and 4. That's boosted a little bit there by Hero out. Basically, with Hero out, they just didn't insert, and Robinson out, they didn't put anyone into the rotation. So that's 2 guys who still have to slide back in. And that meant Haywood Highsmith played 27 minutes. But the Highsmiths, the Martins, the Huckers, the Richardsons, these aren't 12-team league players. And you don't need to be rostering them. Let us look on to the next game, which was Indiana and Charlotte. A few lineup changes that we need to pay attention to here. In this game, we had the Pacers make 2 changes in this team. Oh my God, Tyrese Halliburton moved back into the starting lineup after not starting the last game. TJ McConnell moved to the bench, and then 6-second legend Andrew Nembhard moved back into the starting lineup at the expense of Benedict Mathurin. And then Rick Carlisle was like, yeah, man, we really love Nembhard in there. He just gives us this sense of what? What does he give you a sense of, Rick? And then the Hornets had a scratch on Cody Martin. So Ishmael Smith, 50-year-old legend, stepped into the starting lineup because they continue to be an absolute disaster in terms of injury reporting. They and the Grizzlies are going to just be the absolute fantasy-related death of me. So let's look at this game. The Pacers win it easily, 115-99, the final score here. 34 minutes for Neesmith, 22, 8 and 4. He's been a little up and down in some of the production, but yeah, we're just rostering him pretty obviously. While Siakam had 25, 8 and 9, and Halliburton played, you're going to be shocked at this, 17 seconds over the 20-minute threshold to be eligible for All-NBA. This is an absolute joke. It is laughable. It's embarrassing. Is this what fans want? This is what the fans want. We want to see the stars. So he plays 20 minutes and doesn't play the entire final quarter just so he can make this random number of 65 to get maybe voted in to be a top 15 player for the season. This is what they want, is it? Stars to show up for a 20-minute period. Hey, why is Halliburton not playing at the most important period of the game? Well, he's actually injured, but he's just trotting out there so you guys can laugh and view and watch him in pain while he can't play a full game. That's what you want? That's what fans want, is it? That's it. 17 points for Halliburton, 4 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. Cool. Turner. I legitimately had someone today, man, if Turner struggles, say, do I drop him? No. Absolutely not. It doesn't even enter your head. Do not even consider that. The vitriol or the way that people so quickly turn on Miles Turner as a fantasy player is ridiculous. 16 and 10 for him. Didn't have a block, but okay. McConnell had 4, 6, and 7. He's an assist streamer, and that's it. While Sticks had 10 and 5 in his 20 minutes. Jalen Smith. Nembhard moved into the starting lineup, because of course he did. He played 6 seconds last game. He went scoreless, missed all 4 of his shots. We're not rostering him. We're not rostering Ben Mathurin, who had 14 and 5. And Buddy Hield played 12 minutes. But Buddy might play 50 minutes in tomorrow's game, because I don't know. But you can jack all 3 of those guys.
Get that garbage out of here.
You can jack 4 if you want to include TJ McConnell. You can jack 5 if you somehow, for some reason, still rostering Obi Toppin.
Get that garbage out of here.
There's not enough minutes for these blokes to play enough, and especially with the way that Richard Carlisle jerks them all around, you can't trust it at all. Of course you can't. For the Hornets, there was no LaMelo Ball because the man's dead. There's no Mark Williams. There's no Gordon Hayward. Also 2 corpses at the moment, and Cody Martin was out. Brandon Miller on a furious hot streak. You might say that he's on a hot streak because I just said it, but you'll also say it, right? And you'd be right. Miller? I know you're going to, Josh, you don't even know. What are you saying? Do you even know where you're going with this? No, I'm keeping you on your toes. Never let people know your next move. 38 minutes for Brandon Miller. 34 and 6 with 4 threes, 1 steal, 2 blocks. Fantastic, right? Looks great on a hot streak. Someone had the temerity, the nerve, the unmitigated gall to suggest that Brandon Miller should be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. I beg you people to have a memory that's longer than 7 days. And like I tweeted out the other day, the only way that Brandon Miller is in the Rookie of the Year conversation is if the conversation is, hey, do you think Brandon Miller's in the Rookie of the Year conversation? And I say no. And that's the conversation. So that'd be the only way his name would be brought up. He's not anywhere remotely close to it. Not remotely close. I guess if you want to be technical and say, yeah, like you've got to vote 3 people on your Rookie of the Year ballot, he's in discussion for the third one. He's never sniffing number 1. Not close. Where was I going with all this? We say he's on a hot streak. He's flying at the moment. 67th over the last 2 weeks. And that's where we get like, skepticism is the wrong word. Because 34 points is great. 40% shooting on 25 attempts is like a giant red flag. Is this man going to get 25 attempts every game? How his efficiency is going to be up and down? What happens when, if Gordon Hayward, LaMelo Ball return? I don't know what happens for this team as we move forward. He's playing really well, but sky high minutes, sky high usage. And you worry about how the efficiency runs. PJ had 22 and 9, 2 steals and a block. We know this man's all over the place. Just keep rostering him for now. And Nick Richards had 12 and 10, and he's a must-roster player. 33 minutes. Miles Bridges, the efficiency's been a real hit for him the last few games. 19 and 6 there. And Ish Smith had 3, 3, and 4, and Bryce McGowan's 4 points in 16 minutes. We've got big minutes out of Nick Smith, but at the moment, he's a horrifically bad per-minute producer. He did have a very interesting Richie Beno, 2 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. But he shot 12.5%, and we're only rostering him in the deepest of 20-team leagues. And shout out to Leaky Black in his 19 minutes. They're just a mess as well, and it's going to be messy all the way through. Look, what's going to happen with Twisty Back, Mark Williams? Is he going to play again? Is LaMelo going to play? Is Gordon Hayward going to play? Are we ever going to hear anything about these guys? I don't know. I honestly don't know, and it remains incredibly frustrating. All right, on to the next game. This was a double overtime game between the Toronto Raptors and the Oklahoma City Thunder. We had a change to the Raptors lineup because Rowan Barrett returned from his absence, so that meant that Gary Trent stayed in the lineup, but they pushed Bruce Brown to the bench. The Thunder end up getting the victory. 135-127 is the final score here. Jakob Poeltl, second game back, 33 minutes, 19 and 12, 2 blocks. Huge, massive. There are people telling me he's on their waiver wire. Why, I don't know, but go and add him, please. That's one where you would waste the waiver rate. You should have wasted it last week, but yeah. Ron Barrett, just the casual 43 minutes in his return. He had 23, 7 and 4. He did shoot well. Usage was a little bit down, but 56%. Steal block, pretty good game. Scott Barnes, 19, 7 and 9. Pretty good game. Dennis Schroeder, 36 minutes, 19, 8 and 4. 31% shooting is rough, but a lot of minutes there for him. So why was he able to play so much? Well, they just said, Bruce Brown, you're not playing, and I don't really know what happened there. 18 minutes only for Brucey. No fouls. Just didn't play him. 2 points. He'd been getting like 35, 36 minutes. Wasn't like he was bad. Like Dennis Schroeder was a minus 23. Bruce Brown was a plus 2. Plus minus in an individual game doesn't tell the whole story. That tells something of a story. That does, surely. It's a big difference. So I don't know why Brown was so marginalized. I don't think Schroeder needs to be rostered. You can, but missing out on him to get somebody else, I think doesn't cost yourself much. Gaza Trent, not a bad game. 40 minutes, 16 points, 4 threes with 2 steals. But again, the double overtime gives 10 extra minutes for these players. So, how do we view this stuff without the lens of double overtime sort of obscuring the overall value here? Thad Young had to play 19 minutes because Jonte was out. He had 6 and 5, steal a block. Pretty good numbers, but obviously we're not rostering him in any 12-team leagues. And only 10 minutes for Grady Dick. A little bit surprising. Dick had been getting a lot, and Brown had been getting a lot, but they were reduced so that Schroeder and Trent could play, and I, again, don't really understand why we're getting so many minutes out of those blokes. Poeltl would have maybe played more as well. He also had 5 fouls in this game. For the Thunder, some interesting stuff here. Cason Wallace started again. He ended his night really early. Basically, in the third quarter, he was done. 18 minutes, 8 points. He's obviously, I think, a really good player, but not anywhere near fantasy relevant. But interestingly, they benched Josh Giddey to start the second half. Now, Giddey ended up playing 41 minutes, I think large part because Wallace was injured, and he had probably his best game of the season, Josh. 24, 6 and 6 with 2 blocks and 2 threes. So that further complicates, how do we view this? The Wallace injury, obviously the Williams injury, the Joe injury, they all help Giddey's minutes push up. So we'll see how long that lasts. Shea had 23, 9, 14, 2 steals, 3 blocks, a ridiculous game. And Holmgren had 22, 5, and 4, 2 steals and 2 blocks. We even got, I know it's always a roll of the dice, but even Lou Dort posted numbers. 41 minutes, 22, 7, and 4 with 5 threes. And Aaron Wiggins, I thought he'd be a good streamer their last game. He didn't do anything. And this one, 33 minutes, 20 and 6, 4 threes. Love it. Wiggo is a really, really useful player, a good 14-team league fantasy guy. And the guy that started the second half over Giddy was Pig Williams. He had 3 points in 14 minutes. And obviously, we do not care a huge amount about that. All right, we can go straight into the next game, which was the Rockets and the Wolves, which was a little bit of a blowout. The Wolves win 111-90. Van Vliet, 32 minutes, 11 and 3 with 4 blocks and 2 steals. This guy's block output has been ridiculous. But I think the first thing we want to look at, there's 3 things we want to look at really importantly for the Rockets, and I'll break the news to you. 2 of them were actually terrible. Jollibee Jalen Green played 30 minutes. He had 8 points on 20%. Oh no. He had 7 assists, so that's good. But we saw that ridiculous hot streak that Jalen was on, and we don't have it anymore. So, yeah, hold him if you added him, but it was obviously doing a lot of stuff that he'd never done before, and that gives you skepticism about whether it continues. I talked this morning on the Waiver Wire show about Cam Whitmore, saying he'd been getting, minutes and scoring at, Wilt Chamberlain, literally Wilt Chamberlain levels of production, more points than minutes. And if he can't get more than 20 minutes a night, I find it really hard to expect that it continues. Well, he played 19 minutes again. He had 14 points. It's a bit less, but 31% shooting, bad from the line, 14, 2, and 1. And despite this real hot streak of production from him, he's 167th over his last 5 games. At the moment, with what he is doing, it's not very fantasy friendly, and I don't believe he should be rostered in 12-team leagues. Amen Thompson, 20 minutes, 8 and 7, a steal. People have been adding him a lot in 12-team leagues as well. As a steal streamer, no worries. There's not enough there. There's not enough minutes. There's not enough runway for that to be a regular 12-team league must-roster situation. Şengün played 30 minutes. He had 15 and 10, and Dylan Brooks had 7 points. But let's talk a little bit about Jabari Smith because it was another stinker. He's in a huge slump, bit of a buy low there. I wouldn't drop him. If I'm in 10 teams, I would consider a drop. But 12 I would not. He had 3 points in 19 minutes. Why did he play 19 minutes? Well, 5 fouls. That's why. That's part of why the minutes were down. He's in a slump. He only took 4 shots. He is struggling. His upside's not particularly high this season, although he is the 101st ranked player for the year, so it's not that bad. It's a big slump moment here. Big step forward needed. He needs to improve, but don't look at this and go, this is Jabari Smith. He's being benched, blah, blah, blah. It's not happening. For the Wolves, Gobert had 17 and 13 with 4 blocks. He was immense here. And Edwards was great, especially in the second half, 32 and 6 with a steal and a block. And Townsy, All-Star Towns, had 14 and 10 on bad shooting in 27 minutes. The Wizard of Noz was pretty good. Naz Reid played 22 minutes. He had 13 and 6 with 2 blocks. That brings him to 247th over the last 2 weeks, 143rd for the year. That is not a 12-team league guy in my opinion, but he's still rostered everywhere, and I don't get it. While Jaden McDaniels also is absolutely not a 12-team league player.
Get that garbage out of here.
5 and 4 in his 29 minutes, and Conley had only 8 points. He only played 29 minutes. He had 9 assists. He shot poorly, low minutes. He's definitely a hold to me. I would 100% have Conley rostered above Reed and above Jaden McDaniels without any hesitation at all. But this game was a blowout again, so we got 4 or 5 minutes of garbage time at the end of proceedings. All right, let's head on to the next game. It was the Milwaukee Bucks and the Utah Jazz. There was no Chris Middleton, so Doc Rivers, of course, went to busted up husk of Jay Crowder starting in his spot. Why wouldn't you do that? That would make complete sense to put Jay Crowder in there. And as for the Bucks, well, didn't work, did it? Because the Jazz beat them 123-108 is the final score here. For Milwaukee, Bob Portis played 36 minutes. He started over Brook Lopez with Lopez out. 27 and 7, 4 threes and 3 blocks. I'd be looking to sell high on Portis. Yanni had 33, 7 and 13 with great field goals, pretty good free throws. And Lillard just wasn't healthy. He had an ankle issue before the game. He was questionable. He was limping around, and the shot just wasn't there. 12 points, 6 assists. He had 2 blocks on 28%. Just a really, really rough night. I think he might miss a game or two coming up. Just watch that one. While Leaky Beasley had 16 points with 4 threes. Now, that's a pretty good game from Leaky. Over the last 2 weeks, in 30 minutes a night, he's 241st. He's no more than a streamer to me. Jay Crowder played 40 minutes. Of course he did. Why wouldn't he? 6 points, 2 threes, 3 assists, 20% shooting. Why, Doc? Well, I know why, because Doc Rivers is a completely unserious coach who hates everybody who is young because they are young and has no trust in anybody or really an ability to evaluate these players properly. Their best player outside of Giannis and Portis was probably AJ Green today, who had 10 points. He actually played 22 minutes, so that's good. I guess he's a little bit older. 3 threes for him there. But the guys who played 0 minutes, 35 seconds each, Chris Livingston, Andre Jackson, and Marjan Beauchamp. Cool. All the young guys never played. This guy is completely predictable and completely ridiculous. And then, after the game, Eric Name asked Doc Rivers, hey, man, you only played like an 8-man rotation. Like, any ideas of what are you doing? Like, you're pumping these minutes into these guys. What should you have done? And you know what he said? Yeah, I should have played more Robin Lopez. I'm sorry. This is a completely unserious coach. Does he know that Andre Jackson, I know he's a rookie, does he know he's like the best perimeter defender on this team? I'll say outside of Giannis, but Giannis isn't even really a perimeter defender. Marjan Beauchamp's not awesome, but come on, what are we doing with this guy? Well, at least they're 1-3 since he got hired, and he's only there for $40 million and 3.5 more years. Not a huge takeaway, though, from this in fantasy. For the Jazz, massive win. The rotations are going to continue to be frustrating, very obviously. Keontae George, 25 minutes, 19 and 10 with 5 threes. I don't think there's enough here to say he's a must roster, but at least he's streamable. Markkanen had 21 points, and Johnny Collins, 15 and 10 in 24 minutes. And the 24 minutes is a little, not red flaggy, but you're looking and go, oh, really? We're doing 24 minutes now? After he was pushing to 30 and Walker Kessler was playing 18 a night. Kessler played 27. He had 13 and 8 with 3 blocks. Kessler is and remains a 12-team category must-hold. Points leagues is on the border, but the rotation frustrations are going to remain. Sexton only played 25 minutes, but had 19 points, took tons of shots, didn't hit many, 38%. But this is the frustration with him as well. 30 minutes and he's a top 50 player. 24, he might be top 50 or he might be top 100. We're obviously still rostering him. And it is a rough patch here for Jordy Clarkson. 12, 5 and 5 in 26 minutes. 27% shooting. I would still hold Jordan, but he's struggling a little bit here, the man on the street. Just also quickly, Ochai Agbaji is really not very good at all. He had 3 points in 10 minutes, and it's one of those guys, I got into a lot of arguments about this guy in his draft because people look at it, well, he was an actual National College Player of the Year. These guys, just as a general rule, do not work out in the NBA. They just don't. So, look, another one of those guys who's just completely overmatched, I think, in a rotation role. They don't really have another option there. And that's where we sit with him. But yeah, the Jazz are going to be frustrating with rotations for sure. But they won against the Bucks in a pretty comfortable manner. All right, let's do the last game. What was it? Oh yeah, Portland and Denver. In Denver, we get the final game, and the Blazers were without Malcolm Brogdon. They were without Jeremy Grant. So you'd think this would be an opportunity to start Scoot Henderson. Absolutely not. Why would you do that? Matisse Thybulle replaces Malcolm Brogdon in the starting lineup, and then Tamani Kamara, who placed Jeremy Grant last game, he moved to the bench so that Chris Murray can start. Cool. Don't really understand what the point of this is. It also gives me a complete lack of confidence that Scoot is going to be starting come the end of the season because I don't know what Chauncey Billups is doing here. But in terms of minutes, it didn't really matter. Long term, it does matter. It is harder to get more minutes when you come off the bench, despite what coaches might lie and tell you about. It is a little bit harder, but Scoot still got him here. Wasn't good, but he got him. The Nuggets win 112-103. Ayton continues to play really well. Yeah, 39 minutes, 27-9 for the Snowman. He had a steal and 2 blocks on 68%. While Simons had 26, 6 and 9 with 39 minutes. Shot not particularly well, 44%. I don't believe that these guys are going to be playing in April. I don't believe they're going to be playing in the final week of March. I don't believe it's going to have an impact on your fantasy playoffs if your league is set up correctly, but I could be wrong. Chris Murray first start of his career, 20 minutes, 8 points. He had a steal and 2 blocks. We're not worrying about him until maybe we get to April. And then Kamara had 10 points in 23. And Thybulle had 6 points with 3 steals in 34 minutes. As for Scoot, he played 33 minutes, 14, 8, and 9, which looks fine on the surface. The fact that he shot 19% from the field is pretty rough, but he continues to be basically automatic. This is like Tyler Hero's Steph Curry level of Jordan Poole, even level of free throw shooting. He just can't miss. 6 of 6 from the line. The other stuff is dreadful, obviously. 10% on twos, he was. But he's putting together better games. He's now 150th in points leagues for the season. He is 124th over the last 2 weeks in category leagues, despite averaging only 24 minutes. I think rostering him is fine, understanding that there's going to be a lot of nonsense here. There's going to be games where Brogdon plays and then Sharp returns where they put him at 21 minutes again for what reason, I have zero idea. But I think longer term, this will pay off, and his short-term production is good enough to hold. There's still people that are rostering Dwop Reith. I guess they're just in hospital or something. He had 8 points in 13 minutes for the Nuggets. A lot of business as usual here. Nikola Jokic, 29, 8, and 7. The headmaster, Jamal Murray, had 24, 5, and 10 with 2 blocks. Peyton Watson played 30 minutes. That's interesting. 12 and 6 with 2 threes, 2 steals, and a block. Really like Peyton Watson long term. Not sure about the 30 minutes here, but with Magaponda Jr. having 12 points in only 24 minutes, they gave more of that to Watson, and we had 30 minutes from Aaron Gordon. Just watch the Peyton Watson thing. That is something to monitor in like 16-team leagues. He's a must-roster Peyton. In 14 teams, he's a borderline. Let's see. But after a rocky start to the season, he's back in Malone's good books. 28 minutes for Christian Brown in this one as well. 4 points. We don't worry too much about that. But what we do need to pay attention to is that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope had 11 points with 2 threes. Obviously, you know what I'm going to say. He's not a 12-team league guy, but he pinged his hammy at the end of the game. He went to the locker room with 2 minutes to go. Is that a total precautionary thing because they were up? Or did he ping his hammy? He pinged his hammy. That, you would guess, is out until All-Star is my guess. It's a guess. That's how hamstrings should be handled. He pinged it. He's old. There's no need for him to play. Expect him to be out. That means that I do think that you get a little bit more from Peyton. You get a little bit more from Christian Brown. You get a little bit more from Reggie Jackson, putting them at least into the 12-team stream bucket. But the injury to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is not enough for me to burn an ad at this point of the week to go and add a Watson or add a Jackson. I don't think anyone steps into that role. But it is just worth mentioning that I think KCP at least gives you that opportunity to drop him. So if he's on your roster, you just wait until something appears at the deadline and you jack off KCP.
Get that garbage out of here.
That would be what I would do in that scenario. And there's not much else I don't think to talk about in that game. And that brings us to the end of the games. That is all 9 Sunday games done. We're not going to do a stream of the day recap because there was no stream of the day yesterday, so we can go straight into your monstrous line of the night. And the monstrous line of the night, it came down to 2 blokes in the end, but I do have to give the nod to the revenge game legend. Bradley Beal gets 43 points, 6 assists, 2 steals, back in Washington for the first time. Your waiver wire line of the night, the best player who is rostered in under 50% of leagues, the best player of the day. And that one goes to, of course it does, Midwest Dylan Brooks. Lou Dort pops up with 22.7 rebounds and 4 assists. That'll be his combined total from the next 3 games. Almost guaranteed that. He's always going to be on the stream list. He's going to disappoint you, and then he occasionally chucks in one of these and you go, oh yeah, Lou Dort, maybe not. The young gun of the night, the best performer from a first or second year player. We're going to stay with the Oklahoma City Thunder. They could have clean swept because Shea could have got the monstrous. But instead, I gave that one to Beal, but Chet Holmgren gets the young gun of the night. He goes 22 points, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. A lot of Richie Beno stuff there with Chet. And then your dud of the night, the worst performer who is a majorly rostered player, over 70% rostered, sorry. And we do go to Toronto, even though he's in a Pacers uniform. The Shark, Bruce Brown, had 2 points and 2 assists. Minutes way down as they prioritize spuds like Dennis Schroeder because, of course, they did. What about the top 6 players for the day? That's what we're going to take a look at here. So your top 6 players in category leagues. Number 1 was Beal, followed by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jason Tatum, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Simons, and DeAndre Ayton. Your top 6 players rostered in under 50% of leagues. Lou Dort, number 1, followed by Asar Thompson. Interesting. I like what happened. I don't trust Monty, but trending right. Keontae George looked good. Not sure I want to do it in 12s. Eugene Omoruyi, just remember that one. Peyton Watson, absolutely remember that one. And Scott Pippen, like who knows? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. He'd probably in the G League in the next game. And that's not even a joke. Like he literally might just be playing in the G League. Your top 6 players for Yahoo Points Leagues, it was Shea at 1, followed by Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bradley Beal, Jason Tatum, Pascal Siakam, and Kawhi Leonard. Let's have a look at some takeaways here. I do believe that Paul Reed is the guy that we want to add. I think that Aaron Wiggins is at least a 14-team league guy with some injuries piling up in OKC. I think Asar Thompson could be worth a flyer. Not sure I'd want to waste an ad in a limited ad scenario this week, but we're definitely watching it. And the 2 guys who I do think are pretty clear drops, Bud Hield and the now hamstrung Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Don't think I would be holding on in that scenario. So, that is all the action from Sunday done. Let's do my weekly recap of my leagues. And we're going to start with industry pickup. Let's go. I haven't actually checked my scores today to see how we go. Oh, yeah. Up against Mike Barner in industry pickup, and I got the gigantic W. 8-1. So that puts me very, very comfortably at the top of the standings. Mike Catron beat Alex Baruth 6-3. Why can't I speak? Oh, Kingy, you did it, my guy. 5-3-1 over Drew Dinkmeyer. That extends my lead over Drew, who was in second place. Fantastic. Alex Traclean put up a good fight against Mitch Casey. Mitch wins 5-4. Mitch was third. So that is a huge W for me to jump way ahead now. Love it. Rep Bauer 6-3 over B-Dub. And Noah Rubin beat Dan Titus 6-3. We'll get back and look at the standings in a second. Let's look at the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl Category League. Let's see how my teams win in that one. Again, have not checked these results, so this could be embarrassing. We'll find out. 6-3 over Triples, W. 8-1 over Super JKP, absolute W. What about in the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl Points League? How did I go in that one? Eventually, when it loads up, I'll tell you. Oh, massive win over Lucky Jacks by 500 points. And a massive win over Mushers by 500 points as well. Huge W's there. Love that. Absolutely massive performances. So let's go and have a look at the standings in these leagues. As you know, I am knocked out of the FBI LFB World Cup, so we don't have to worry about that one. That's the wrong league. All right, so let's go. Jason Kidd division in the points league. Eventually it'll come up. Second, behind Luca. Look at me, I'm the captain now, who is the best team in the entirety of this subdivision. So we are only one game ahead of DBI. We're 20-10. I need to push ahead there. What about in the category league? Where am I sitting? I'm in the main Red Claws division here. So let's hit the main Red Claws division. I think I'm second in this one as well. Eventually we'll find out. I think Rap is on top of me. He's third overall. Yep, and then it's me. So I'm 13 games behind him, but 10 clear of second. So I'm pretty confident we're going to be making playoffs in both the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowls. And then we go to industry pickup. And I'm massively ahead. 10 games ahead of Drew Dinkmeyer. Oh, yeah, loving that. We are flying over there at the moment. That is a very, very good run of things over there on my Fantrax leagues. So now let's go and have a look at the Yahoo League, and I don't think the picture is going to be as rosy there. Yeah, not that good. I took on Uncle Drew's Flat Earthers, which I believe is Jared Johnson's team, formerly of Roto World. He beat me 7-1. That is troubling, because that puts me to 69, giggity. So who was third in this league? I'm third, sorry. Who was fourth? Because they don't update the standings straight away, obviously. So fourth is Joel Bartolotta. He got 3. He got done 6-3, so he's not ahead of me. Ed Monix is in 7th. He got a 6-3, so he moves up to 68. He's one behind me. That's annoying. Purple Tape moves up to 65 wins. He's behind me still. Scott Howard's Beavers moves to 69 as well, so he might actually jump ahead of me. So he might move to 3rd. I might move to 4th. What about the 8th team? Spiders. Finished the Spiders. Only got 1, so they're not winning, obviously. What other teams are in here? Purple Tape. We talked about Purple Tape already. Reclean in 9th. He got 2. Yeah, so no. Okay, so we're either 3rd or 4th. So that's sitting okay. Maybe we'll go and have a look at the 30 deep because, yeah, I'm not going very well on this one. Let's check what the scores are for 30 deep for this week. 4-5 down against Benny Aziz, and then against Chris Towers, I lose 5-4 as well. Yeah, my team's struggling in this one. 102 and 148. Not good at all. I don't think we're going to make playoffs in 30 deep, which, of course, is very, very unfortunate. All right, that is my league recap. Industry pickup, Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl, Points and Cats, FBI World Cup, which I'm out of, my Yahoo League, and my 30 deep CBS League. There's the recaps. All right, brings us to the end. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, go check out the live trade deadline show, pre-bang that, Thursday, February 8, 1 p.m. Eastern. Guys, I will see you later. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.